So there's a world where you get down the road on this season and you look back at that Florida game as kind of the turning point where they kind of figured everything out. That's kind of the main stem from what the tree branches out from is that game. But that only works if you're able to follow it up with subsequent success and build on what you have established in that game. So you got to go forward. You got to take that with you and build on it and become a better and better football team. And that's been a marker of this team is weekly improvement over the first 3 weeks. How do they follow up the Florida game? Now on this channel, I'm really only committed to making preview videos to Power 5 opponents. Of course, Bowling Green's a G5 opponent, and we're going to talk about stuff about them throughout this video. I think there's some stuff worth bringing up about them, but this isn't really going to be a Bowling Green-centric preview video. This is really about the Aggies, both this video and I think this weekend really is too. Look, let's just be straight up. A&M out-talents the team. A&M should go out and beat Bowling Green. But having said that, Bowling Green is kind of the opposite of Florida in a way, in that they're definitely a less talented team than Florida. However, I believe Coach Scott Loeffler will get the most out of them rather than Billy Napier getting the least out of what Florida was. And under Scott, they've won or appeared in 2 straight bowl games. They've lost them both, but they've been bowl teams for 2 years in a row. And obviously this is a team that just took Penn State to the brink at Penn State 2 weeks ago. The Aggies cannot let up. They must continue their 3-week trend of game-to-game improvement. And we've talked about how this team can improve a lot under a new staff as you install, as you gain confidence in one another, player to coach, coach to player. As coach learns their personnel, we're seeing shuffles in the secondary. We're seeing shuffles in the defensive line rotation. We're seeing shuffles on the offensive line rotation. We're seeing shuffles at the wide receiver rotation. I think that's an indication that the coaching staff is obviously still learning this new team. Can they bring even more momentum than what they gained versus Florida into the heart of your SEC schedule that starts in Jerry World next Saturday? You can do that this weekend. You feel good now. Go play good against Bowling Green, leave no doubt. Feel even better about yourself going into Arkansas. So today, let's talk about exactly what we need to see from the Aggies versus Bowling Green. Things that will give us confidence in the coming weeks. And also, throughout this video, why not? I'm going to throw you a trivia question. No reason. Just feel like doing it. Who are the 4 players on offense that played every snap of the Florida game? Don't cheat. Don't look it up. At the end of the show, I'm going to answer it. Comment if you get it right. Comment who you thought it was if you get it wrong. I'm just doing this for fun because why not? It's my show. Well, I'll just do it. Thanks for being here, guys. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet. Really appreciate all of you guys being here. Let's start with the offense. So obviously coming off of Florida, we're feeling good about the running game, right? Offensive line looks like the best offensive line in 4 years. Doesn't matter who you're throwing out there. We're 3 centers in. We're using 2 different right tackles. Everything's been good. Running backs have been playing off of them really well. Running backs have showed tremendous patience. They've showed tremendous strength, especially Le'Veon Moss. And you got 3 of them, and now you got Marcel Reed to run as well. Tight end blocking last week, it looked better, but still had its bad moments. Obviously something to keep an eye on. Obviously want them to keep building on there. But what I really want to see is a passing game that develops early and often in the Bowling Green game. I want to see the wide receivers get involved in this game. Bowling Green, though it's a short 2-game sample size, is giving up essentially equal stats on the ground and through the air. And honestly, I'm not even sure if that really factors into a game plan. It's really about the Aggies with this discrepancy of talent. So you have a chance to get the wide receivers in the game. I'm saying there's no Adonis out there in their secondary. You're able to do kind of what you want in an opposition like this. Get the receivers in the game. They need a confidence boost going into SEC play. And I know we're a run-first team, but use the run to set up the pass. Attack deep like you did early versus Florida or in the third quarter versus Florida. Use your short routes. You were effective in some of the quick outs. You were effective in some of the crossing routes. Keep doing that. Throw some screens out there. Even handoffs in the backfield to receivers. I want the personnel group to gain confidence. I don't necessarily need it to be by way of deep passes. I mean, it could be. That'd be great. But I want to see Cyrus Allen, Ja'Day Walker, Noah Thomas, Moose Muhammad, Jabri Barber, even some of the deeper guys. I want to see more confidence there. I want to see them all touch the ball 3-4 times this game. That's on my wish list. And I think we need to see it going into SEC play because this is kind of your last dress rehearsal before you're in the thick of it. And I'll put more on my wish list. And I'm going to get greedy here. I'll get greedy a couple times in this video because I think we can and I think we should. I want a Noah Thomas and a Ja'Day Walker touchdown. I feel like they've both kind of, taken a back seat over the last few games. And really throughout the season so far, even though Ja'Day had some moments versus Notre Dame, I want to see them both get in the end zone just to build that confidence. I want over 200 yards in the air and 200 yards on the ground. I want a balanced approach, and I want to get close to that 500-plus yard marker. So whichever way you get it, I want 200 over on each side of the offensive attack. That's my offensive wish list. And I also want a third straight turnover-free game. After losing the turnover battle in Game 1, 2-0 to Notre Dame, they have since won the battle 5-0. Keep that up. Take care of the ball. Probably going to win games. Let's talk about the quarterback situation. I'm almost certain that the quarterback this weekend is Marcel Reed. I just think Connor's not going to be 100%. I think they're going to want to rest him at least a week, and I think it makes most sense for this first game after we learned about the injury, or first game after the initial game situation where we learned it's the second game. You know what I mean? It makes sense to rest him this weekend. And in my opinion, if Marcel Reed is as good or better than he was in the Florida game, he will have won the job. That's just going to be my prediction. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm going to pick a side here. I'm just going to lean to that. It could go the other way. We could be wrong here. But I'm going to lean to that idea. The offense absolutely had a flow to it versus Florida. And yes, Florida's bad. But Reed was electric. He had some good runs, some timely, good throws. But what was honestly so impressive to me that really told me the most was the poise. And we've talked about that. But really the next play mentality, both in his action and in the intangibles, but also just the ability to run the offense. Everything ran so efficiently, got in and out of plays. When they had big gains, they were super effective executing their hurry up that they were doing after the big gains, trying to keep defenses on their heels. They did that well. They got in and out of the huddle. They did everything well. It just ran smooth, There weren't any hiccups. It was just a smooth offense, and I think you expect that out of a quarterback. But the fact that it was a first start, it was a redshirt freshman, it was on the road, loud environment. You saw that in the very first drive, literally like the first or second play. It got them. They had a false start by way of the center quarterback exchange, but after that, it was clean. And to me, that kind of tells me about who he is. He's able to operate, and that's huge because you know what else he brings to the table. I think he's going to learn how to read a defense and go through his progressions, but he was already pretty good at it. We saw a couple of areas he missed, but that's any quarterback. I think there's so much to build on with Marcel Reed, but he has to show you that he can replicate that. It can't just be a one-hit wonder, obviously. If he's out there, it's kind of shaky, it's fine, winning football, but still not super inspiring. I think that kind of leaves the door cracked. But if he goes and he leaves no doubt, this is the game where I think he can earn it. Can he build on the Florida game? And yeah, just the last note on this, Connor might still be the better quarterback. But if it's working with Marcel and he's good enough and he adds that running element to an offense that wants it, I don't see why you change it. That's it. Y'all give me your thoughts there. A couple more personnel notes. Jabari Barber. What do we get from him? We saw him log 8 snaps versus McNeese. We saw 20 versus Florida. What's the next level of progression there? It seemed that versus Florida, once the game was kind of in hand and they were running the clock, they kind of faded him and rested him, which would make sense. You got him to 20 snaps. That feels good. That's a good progression, 8 to 20, and he was looking good out there. He had a touchdown that got called back, so why risk it? But is this a game where they really try to push him, force the issue, get him closer to that 30-snap marker? I think Ja'Day was at like 38 versus Florida, where Cyrus Allen and Noah were both in the high 50s to top the receiver room. Would they get Jabari around 30 this game? I feel like they would. And still sounds like the plan is to have him full go by Arkansas. He's already a weapon. What does full go mean? And is that still the plan, or are they already there? Is this what we're going to see from Jabari, or is there going to be more to it? I have a feeling he'll be around that 30 to 40 snap marker, kind of in that Ja'Day zone right there. So let's see him get above that 30 snap marker and see what they do with him. Very versatile, fast, athletic player, just like Cyrus Allen in a way. I'm also watching Theo Melanoorstrom, Thor, the Swede, the man of many names. He's been playing his best football lately. The start of the season, best football of his career. He looks the best. He's the biggest he's been, obviously. He's been growing. Can he build on that? Can he become a consistent weapon for the team, both running and blocking, receiving and blocking, not running, obviously? He actually logged 3 more snaps than Trey Watson, who's kind of the named starting tight end. So it's kind of like a 2 tight end system right now. They're kind of vying for the lead guy, but a lot of 2 tight end sets. You're going to use Theo a lot, man, and he looks like he's on a really good trajectory right now. I want to see him keep building. Another note, this isn't personnel, but the play action. So far through 3 games, if you've been listening to my live shows, I've been mistaken in the number I've been telling you. Here's the real information. Through 3 games, Colin Klein has only called 12 play action plays. Through 3 games at Kansas State last year, Colin Klein had called 31 play action plays. So 12 at A&M through 3 games to 31 through 3 games at Kansas State. That's a big discrepancy. That tells me a couple of things. First of all, I just think there's more that this offense hasn't showed yet, and I think the Florida game allowed you just to kind of lean on your offensive line and run that clock out like we saw in the second half. In the first half, the first few drives, we saw them opening it up a lot more. We saw a lot more passing, a lot more motion, but as the game went on, they just kind of got vanilla because they could, and they could milk the clock, and they went on a 99-yard drive to doing that, and a 91-yard drive doing the same thing. There's a lot they haven't shown yet, and there's also a lot that is still being installed, being that it's a year 1 offensive coordinator. The other thing it tells me is that while you're building this running game, you're really adding to that play action bank. When it hits, it's going to hit hard. I cannot wait to see it. Is this the game where they really open it up there? They might. They might run 5 or 6 this game. I could see it. I could see them wanting to get that part of the offense really clicking going into SEC play. Look out for that. It was only 2 play actions run versus Notre Dame. Only 2 play actions run versus Florida, one of which was a 73-yard touchdown. Let's see what they do versus Bowling Green. Let's see if they want to get that muscle flexed going into SEC play. All right, let's talk about the defense. Are you thinking about my trivia question? I don't know why I'm doing this. I just felt like it. It just came to me. Talk about the defense. We really played a half of near perfect football versus Florida. 53 yards on the ground in the first half, 0 points. But in the second half, became less consistent. You gave up a big drive to start the second half, but then you did answer it with a stop and a pick 6, but then you kind of fizzled out to the finish line. Let's get a 4-quarter locked-in defensive game here, please. Look, Bowling Green has some pieces, and here we're going to get into some Bowling Green talk a little bit. This is pretty much the extent to which I'll go on Bowling Green besides the stuff I've already said. They have some pieces. They have a former SEC quarterback, Connor Bazelak, Mizzou. We played him in 2021. You probably know that by now listening to Coach Elko speak. They have the nation's most productive tight end right now in Harold Fannin Jr. He leads the country in tight end yardage. And there's a chance they break through with some chunk plays. They absolutely lit Penn State up through the air, especially in the first half of their game 2 weeks ago. They'll spread the rock around. They'll get a lot of receivers involved, and they will throw the ball deep. They were getting chunk plays, 15, 20, 15, 20, 10, 10, 50. It was a bunch of just chunk plays, passing the ball pretty much exclusively in that first half versus Penn State. So you got to start fast. I mean, Bowling Green jumped Penn State for a 17-7 lead on the road early in that game. But what I want is responses to those blows, because there might be blows this game. I want full effort the whole game. No let up, no fizzle at the end, no inconsistency in the second half. And that doesn't mean perfect football. That just means respond, stick to it, steady heartbeat. Full burn, full game. That's what I want. Forced turnovers. You forced 2 at least for the last 2 games. I want to see that again. In that Penn State game, he threw two interceptions. We've had a knack for getting interceptions on the year. Build on that. Get more. Win that turnover battle. Watch out for play action, and this comes directly from that Florida game. It was the best weapon against us versus Florida. Graham Mertz went 6 for 7 for 108 yards and a touchdown against the Aggies on play action passes. The Aggies back 7 just needs to be disciplined, recognize the play, react appropriately. Don't come screaming in if you think it's a run. Trust your technique, trust your assignment, watch it develop, and then react appropriately. I'm honestly glad that happened, though. You put it on film in a game where it wasn't consequential. Now you got to build on that and make sure that it's a good thing that it was on film. Continue to stuff the run. Remember when that was a weakness 2 weeks ago? Don't let that narrative come back, please. Penn State was able to hold them to 120 yards rushing. I think A&M can do a little bit better than that. Let's see it. Let's see it. The interior of the D-line played their best game versus Florida against some big boys. Albert Regis, Shamar Turner and Shamar Stewart affected the run too. But Albert and Turner both played really good penetrating games. Let's see that continue. Let's see the linebackers build on a good game where they held their starting back to -7 yards, 50 yards in the first half. As a team for Florida, huge. Build on that. Some personnel stuff I want to see. Obviously curious to see what happens at nickel. For now, I would think Jaden Hill's the starter, who hasn't been perfect on the year and wasn't perfect versus Florida, but I think he did play his best game versus Florida in his biggest role yet on the year, with Tyreek Chappelle unfortunately injured for the year. But Coach Elko made a very interesting note about nickel at his presser on Monday, that they'd be looking elsewhere to kind of fill out that rotation. Specifically, they'd be looking at maybe a named corner filling out that rotation. So could he mean moving one of the current rotational trio guys to nickel? Because right now at corner, your rotational trio is Javen Thomas, Will Lee, Des Ricks. Could they move one of those guys as kind of your backup nickel as well? Maybe starting at nickel. Who knows what they're going to do? Could he maybe mean a BJ Mays, a guy a lot of us thought would have seen action by now but just hasn't? Could he have a role as a backup nickel now? He's got good size, got good experience, probably a smarter player being that he's been around for a while. Maybe he can back it up there. Or maybe, just maybe, and this is a very unlikely wild card, but maybe, what if Terry Bussey gets some look at nickel? You got Jabri Barber back. You're finding success running the ball. You're finding a lot of weapons on offense, not necessarily consistently, but you had 7 guys get handoffs or running attempts versus Florida, and everyone looked good doing it. I'm not saying Bussey still should not play any offense, but what if Bussey's a guy that can get a look at nickel? Something to watch for sure, and that's very unlikely. Just throwing it out there. We had a Texas Hill Country brought that to our attention in the last call-in show. Not a bad point. With a team that'll try to stretch the ball downfield, the Bowling Green will try to do, like they did versus Penn State. I'm also looking at trying to get after the quarterback yet again like they did versus Florida several times. And I'm going to get greedy again. And this is what I want. I want 3 sacks. You got 2 versus Florida. I want 3 versus Bowling Green. And I'm going to get even greedier. I want 2 of those 3 to come from Shamar Stewart, Shamar Turner, or Nick Scorton. I want 2 sacks from the big 3. And it could be 2 from the same guy. I want those 3 involved in the sack game this game. Scorton has 1 sack on the year. Stewart or Turner don't yet. Let's get those guys involved. And look, like I said, they're going to drop back. They're going to want to get their guys involved in the passing game. That's been their strength in 2 short games. Let's see them build and let's see them dominate some one-on-ones. I want dominating solo sacks. I want at least one of those this game. Some of them can be, combo sacks or coverage sacks, but I want at least 1 dominating solo sack this game. I foresee it happening this game. We'll revisit it after. But just continue to be solid all around. I really feel good about our corners and safeties on just coverage, technique, tackling too. It's all been good. But watch the play action and just improve. Linebacker core just built on that last game, or outside of, once again, play actions, they definitely played their best game of the year. Let's see if they've really settled in on that rotation we saw versus Florida with York and Sanford starting. DeShields in on passing plays as a threat to kind of rush the passer, which has been his most effective utility this year so far. And then Scooby kind of in that spell role, getting like 20 snaps a game. I would wager they'll probably work Scooby in a little bit more now that he distances himself from that injury. But we'll see how they play that. Very curious to watch that. But just building that last game, stopping the run, and we'll be good. That would be a huge development for this defense and would make us maybe potentially feel like we have an elite defense if they really stay consistent there. But all right, since we're here, and I've gone through offense and defense, this isn't really a hardcore prediction video. This is just kind of like a next step for A&M video. But since we're here, I'll give you my score prediction. Why the hell not? It's definitely the kind of game that can sneak up on you. Opponent has some belief after a 4th quarter game versus a top 15 in Penn State at Penn State a couple of weeks ago. They're coming off of a bye to our house. It's a well-coached team that has had success in recent seasons. Like I said, 2 straight bowl appearances. If A&M comes out sluggish, they get a jump on us. Could be trouble. Big trouble. A&M has to play well. I just happen to not think that Mike Elko and Tommy Moffitt is that guy, pal. I've been saying it all season, preseason, talking season. I think what holds A&M back this year is whatever their natural deficiencies as a team are. I do not see a Mike Elko coach team sleepwalking through games, especially in year one, especially with all this momentum right now. I don't expect them to not show up to games, half-assing games. I think Bowling Green gets A&M's best effort, and I think they get our full attention. And I think A&M wins and covers 41-17. A&M covers that 22.5-point spread and builds on what could prove to be a turning point game versus the Florida Gators. So, guys, what is your score prediction to the game? What are you watching for in the game? I probably won't see y'all till after the game. I won't have a live show Thursday night. If you're watching this before then, I have festivities I have to take part in for my birthday. So, yeah, that's happening. And then I don't think I'll be live during the game Saturday. Off chance I am. Probably won't be. I have an out of town. So, yeah, I'll see you after the game. But, oh, wait. The trivia question. I promised you guys. We're going to get an answer. Who are the 4 players on offense that played every snap of the Florida game? Did you get it right? The answer. Marcel Reed, Trey Zune, Chase Basantis, Armaj Reed Adams. Thanks for playing. Let me know if you got it right, and if you got it wrong, let me know who you thought it was. I don't know why I did that. It just came to me while I was doing my pre-show prep for this. It was fun for me. Let's see. Maybe the comments will make it more fun. Guys, thanks for watching. Like, sub, helps me greatly. I'll see you after the game. Let's beat the hell out of Bowling Green, and let's get a great start to the season going. Gig 'em.